Thank you so much for being with me.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
So, Full Harvest, a really interesting company that works to eliminate food waste.
Correct.
Tell us about how the company got started, what your primary mission is, how you work with brands to achieve that mission.
Yeah, absolutely. So our founder, Christine Mosley, founded the company 3 years ago. She had worked in the logistics and food and beverage industry for almost a decade and came out to California with the goal of figuring out how to make affordable or healthy produce more affordable. And kind of at the same time that she came out to California, these crazy food waste statistics were coming out. Around 40% of food in our country goes to waste every year.
40%?
40%.
Currently?
Yep, currently.
Oh
every year,
gosh.
40% of the food in our country goes to waste, and 20% of that waste occurs at the farm level. And so she actually had the opportunity to go out and visit farms and see the food waste live and in action. And she realized that there was a huge opportunity there, that this food was going to waste simply because it was cosmetically imperfect. It didn't meet the kind of strict retail aesthetic standards set today, or it was surplus, and these farmers didn't have an outlet to actually sell it on the market. So she realized there was a huge opportunity and founded Full Harvest. And so what Full Harvest does is it is an online marketplace, the only online marketplace that connects food and beverage companies, so many of the businesses here today, directly to farms to buy their imperfect and surplus produce that before they were just throwing away or that was going to waste.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's taking a three-pronged approach. It's really, truly a win-win-win because it generates additional revenue for farms. It helps reduce food waste, which is the third largest contributor to climate change. And most importantly for the businesses here today, it provides cheaper inputs. It provides access to more affordable, healthy produce.
Now, we've seen brands upcycle, we've seen them look for ways to introduce ingredients that may have been tilled back into the ground. Watermelon water comes to mind immediately, using scarred, imperfect watermelons and turning them into this great juice. Can you tell us about some of the specific ways that Full Harvest has contributed to a brand or a product that you might not have seen otherwise without the company's help?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the biggest parts is the innovation that we're doing at the farm level. Mm-hmm. So there's a difference between produce that is thrown away once it's been harvested and then produce that is simply just left in the field and never harvested at all. And I think that kale is the best example of that. We've really innovated with our farmers to actually change their harvesting practices and start harvesting the entire kale plant. Most people wouldn't know that only on average about 30% of the kale plant is actually harvested, and the rest of the internal leaves that are perfectly healthy, and if you grew them in your backyard, you would eat them no problem. But because they don't, like I said, meet that kind of retail aesthetic standard, they get left out in the field. And so what we've done is we've actually worked with our network of growers to change their harvesting practices, get them starting to harvest the full leaf. And then we've worked with a number of brands that have actually started being able to implement specifically organic kale, organic fresh kale into their products because we've been able to offer it to them at a lower price. And I think that is one of the most exciting things that we've really experienced or that we've been able to achieve is helping our brands get access to affordable organic produce. A lot of the buyers that we talk to are currently using conventional, but they want to move towards organic, but it's not affordable or it's too expensive. And because we are selling surplus produce and in excess inventory, we're able to access the produce on an average 10 to 30% discount from market rate. And so they're able to actually start inputting organic produce into their items. And since it's obviously healthier and better for the environment, we're really excited about that.
So you're helping brands reduce costs as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that is the biggest selling point for businesses here today. There's the sustainability side of things. They get to kind of include a differentiated sustainability story into their brand. Yeah. Right now, it's shown that sustainability committed brands are growing at about 4 times the rate of non-committed brands. So being able to really tap into that exponentially growing market is it's very on point right now. But I think most importantly, we're able to, like I said, help our buyers get produce at about a 10 to 30% discount from what they would get from a traditional distributor.
Now, everything you're saying is really amazing and eye-opening, especially some of the stats that you talked about.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I would guess that if American consumers knew a little bit more about these stats, we'd have less of a food waste problem in America, right? So, I mean, how are you working with some of these brands to help educate their consumers?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's an education that's needed all around, right? There's, direct-to-consumer companies like Imperfect Produce that have come up. There's a lot of media attention that's been paid towards food waste. So I think consumers are starting to really pay attention and have a better understanding of what the food waste problem really is and its impact on our planet. But that being said, there hasn't really been a scalable solution that has enabled both consumers and businesses to have true access to this surplus and to imperfect produce and really have a meaningful impact on eliminating waste. You see on the retail level some kind of supermarkets starting to have like an ugly produce section or discount, aging produce, but it's just hasn't really had a scalable impact. And so we're in a very unique position to really build a full-fledged supply chain for imperfect produce. And you're right, there's an education gap there, but that's really what we're doing, working both with the farmers and with our buyers to make sure that they understand what ugly produce is. I think one of the common questions that I get from buyers is, do people ever get sick off of number 2 produce or ugly produce or things along those lines? And I think that there's a stigma against it, right? And so what we're really doing is we're, educating buyers and educating consumers that this is still perfect quality, healthy produce. It just looks a little bit different. So sizing, color, things like that.
So for brands watching, and we're out of time, but for brands watching, how do they get in touch with Full Harvest?
So they can get in touch with Full Harvest through our website, fullharvest.com. There's a sign-up link in the top right-hand corner. Go ahead and put your information in. I will also be here at the conference, so feel free to reach out to me.
Outstanding. Madison, this has been so great. Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.